Welcome to the Contemporary Controller, Changing Roles and Responsibilities study, our webcast, sponsored by the Controllers Council. My name is Lindy Antonelli, partner with Armanino and Controllers Council Board Chair. Let's take a look at our agenda for today's webcast. First, I will introduce our panelists, then quickly share some background about our sponsors. Next, we'll get right into our study results, including an abstract, analysis, and perspectives. Then we will have a Q&A session. And speaking of questions, you can use your GoToWebinar control panel to ask the questions. Try and get them into the queue as early as possible so we have time to respond to all of them. And we'll finally wrap up with some interesting information about upcoming events and save the dates that we have going on at the Controllers Council. Before we get started, tomorrow all the attendees will receive an email with a link to this webcast. Don't forget to use the GoToWebinar control panel to ask questions. And for those of you who actually took the survey and requested the study report, it will be emailed to you later next week, and it will be posted to our site as well. So even if you didn't take the survey study, you can download it. Now, meet our esteemed panelists. I'm very pleased to introduce you to Guy Barkwell, Assistant Controller at Bill.com, a publicly traded company that specializes in automated AP and AR software solutions. At Bill.com, Guy was part of the team that helped lead the company through the recent IPO. Congrats on that. Guy's originally from New Zealand and started his career in audit at Deloitte, both London and New Zealand, before moving into this industry. Guy has held various controller roles with local and multinational companies across several industries, including hospitality, not-for-profit, fintech, and SaaS. Guy's got a Bachelor of Commerce with a double major in accounting and management from the University of Auckland and a graduate diploma with a specialization in management, also from the University of Auckland. He's a chartered accountant and a member of the Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand. Wow, what an impressive resume, Guy. Welcome and thank you for joining. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Thank you, and hi to everybody. I think that's the first time that I've ever been called esteemed, so I will take that. Thank you, I appreciate it. As Lindy said, I've spent quite a bit of time overseas in different capacities. I started my career with Deloitte in London and spent time working in New Zealand, the UK, and most recently in DC and then California. So I've got to experience different controller roles in a few different countries, few different industries, and it certainly made me really appreciate the role of a controller and have a really good perspective and good appreciation for just how different the role can be across different industries.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to hearing your perspective, as I'm sure that our attendees are as well. So, okay, well, before we get started, presentations and information and study surveys and things like that would not be possible without our sponsors. So I'll just take a quick minute to introduce our sponsors. First of all, Bill.com, where Guy is the assistant controller, fully digitized AP and AR. No in-person approvals and no paper needed. Wow. Flowcast, financial close management software, and the controller's best friend. And Armanino, my firm, top 25 accounting and technology consulting firm and strategic business partner to the accounting and finance organization. Thank you again to our sponsors. Now, a little bit about the study. So we have seen the role of the accounting and financial controller as changing and growing in importance over the years. Traditional roles of managing accounting operations and reporting still dominate, but with pandemic and economically changing environments, we have seen the controller's expanded roles in technology, HR, crisis, and corporate strategy management. The objective of this study was to identify how controllers, CFOs, and their accounting and finance departments are adapting and evolving. A national survey was conducted by the Controller's Council in September and October 2020 with more than 300 respondents participating across North America. Guy, do you agree that the Controller's role and responsibilities are changing?
Yeah, undoubtedly. I think the caricature of an accountant sitting in a back office somewhere, never getting to talk to anybody, I think those days are long gone. I think there's a real expectation that the accountants and controllers are engaged with the business, that you're able to develop really deep relationships across the business. And for me, I think that the change has been more that there's an expectation that you're proactive. I think people will traditionally think of accountants as being really reactive. And in the modern world, I just don't think that really fits anymore. We need to be proactive. We need to be anticipating the needs of the business, and there's a real expectation that we're doing that. And then I also just think about some of the major changes over the last even just couple of years, and it's really it touches almost all aspects of what a controller does. On a technical level, we've had 606 with a new lease standard coming in, which are pretty significant changes in and of themselves. From a compliance standpoint, the Wayfair cases had a massive impact on how a lot of businesses conduct their business. From a fraud standpoint, the rising number of cases of phishing and spoofing and the complexity of those cases has made the control environment really complicated these days. And then also just from a recruiting and team management standpoint, it's a really competitive marketplace. People are willing to change jobs very rapidly, and developing and mentoring that team is really hard. And all of that stuff is before we even get into COVID. I mean, before COVID happened, all of those were ongoing, and then COVID has thrown everything out the window. So it's an interesting time to be a controller, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those are great insights, Guy. In my prior life, before I got into basically the accounting technology area, I was a controller myself, and I'm a CPA. And I've always thought of the controller role as being sort of the historian or the scribe, writing the history books. But now controllers are writing the playbooks, and we're out there in the field. We're working side by side with all the different departments of the organization. So I agree with your insights, and I'd like to get right back into the survey. We do have about 10 questions that we've asked our participants, and let's get right into it and see how the responses fared. The first question was, what is your title and or role? So as you can see, more than 70% are the controller type roles, and with 19 coming in as the CFO or VP of Finance, we're hitting about 90% of the respondents here with those numbers. Now, when the survey study actually comes out at the end of next week, all the subsequent questions, or most of them, I should say, will be coming out how the controller role answered versus how the CFO role answered. And you'll see that particularly in a few questions down, because their perspectives are going to be different. So like to, kind of just set the stage with that. And then let's move on to the next slide.